My forecast is Bitcoin goes up 40%, then 35, then 30, then 25, then 20. And like 10 to 20 years out, it's clipping along at 20%. And then over the course of 100 years, it's growing 14% a year. And against that, the S&P index will probably grow 7% a year. The money supply will grow 7% a year. So if you diversify in the S&P index, you're just going to maintain your wealth, track the money supply if you get lucky. Bitcoin's going to outperform that.
Renowned billionaire investor, entrepreneur, and business executive Michael Saylor is undoubtedly one of the biggest Bitcoin bulls out there. Like many other big Bitcoin and crypto advocates, Saylor was previously a critic of the world's largest cryptocurrency. In his infamous tweet from 2013, the MicroStrategy executive chairman predicted that Bitcoin's days were numbered and it was only a matter of time before it suffered the same fate as online gambling. This was before Saylor really did the work on Bitcoin and went from a skeptic to one of the asset's biggest investors and advocates. 10 years after that extremely uninformed tweet, Saylor personally holds over 17,000 Bitcoin and after a lot of work was able to convince MicroStrategy shareholders to adopt a permanent Bitcoin standard for the software company in 2020. This means that MicroStrategy will continue to increase its Bitcoin holdings with every available cash. So far, the software company has accumulated 158,400 Bitcoin, and it plans to continue buying for as long as possible. Saylor's high conviction in Bitcoin is based on the asset's interesting fundamentals and the rapid destruction of the global monetary system caused by the incessant money printing by central banks. During his latest interview with MMCrypto, Saylor reiterated his strong, unwavering conviction in Bitcoin, which he predicts will keep rising until it hits $1 million per coin, then $10 million and above. We will now bring you clips from the interview as Saylor discusses his Bitcoin holdings, MicroStrategy's Bitcoin standard, and the rapidly increasing and urgent need for Bitcoin amidst all the chaotic economic and geopolitical conditions. Please take a little time to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notifications bell for more videos like this. Also, ensure you drop your comments on Saylor's interview in the comments section below. Thanks, and enjoy the video.
Well, I think in the fall of 2020, I disclosed that I'd acquired 17,732 Bitcoin, and I haven't sold any. You don't sell your Bitcoin. And then MicroStrategy, in its latest quarterly release, announced that it had now reached 158,400 Bitcoin. So we have just been consistently acquiring more Bitcoin, and we've, done it through a dozen or more different transactions, cash buys, debt issuances, equity issuances, etc. So generally, you could say that I'm long Bitcoin. I think MicroStrategy is getting close to having invested $4.7 billion of cash, of real money in Bitcoin, just slightly less, something like that. I bought the 17,732 Bitcoin, back when it was about below 10,000. So I probably invested $175 million of cash. Obviously, we're long term, so it doesn't really matter what you spent to buy it. It matters more about how many Bitcoin you have and whether you're still holding the Bitcoin when Bitcoin hits $1 million a coin or 10 million a coin. I don't think it's very wise to sell Bitcoin. I'm a Bitcoin maximalist. And so Bitcoin maximalist means a lot of things to a lot of different people, but certainly what it means from an investor point of view is I view Bitcoin as the apex asset. So MicroStrategy is a public company. Our strategy is literally to acquire more Bitcoin. Our strategy is not to trade. Our strategy is not diversified investments in a portfolio of technology companies. Our strategy is very simple. We're a levered long Bitcoin operating company. So if you think about us, comparing us to like a spot Bitcoin ETF, a spot Bitcoin ETF would only own Bitcoin, but it would be unlevered and it would charge you a fee. And our strategy is we use intelligent leverage. For example, we borrowed $2.2 billion at 1.6% interest blended. So we have very intelligent leverage, long-term, not mark to market. And then we buy Bitcoin with it. And then we don't charge a fee. And we generate a premium because when we generate cash flows or we do accretive financings, we then convert that into Bitcoin for the benefit of our shareholders. So what MicroStrategy, the public company, we have a transparent strategy. And the key with a public company is when you adopt a strategy, you need to be consistent. You need to be transparent. Like, for example, if I created a REIT that invested in premium office space in New York and London, and I raised capital for that, you would want me to invest in premium office space in New York and London. And if I said, oh yeah, the market is, I got the point where I'm going to sell that and buy Kansas City farmland, and now I'm going to trade some digital assets or whatever, you would think, I can't really trust this company because I don't know what they're going to do. And if I don't know what they're going to do, then I don't want to invest my capital with them. So it's very important for a public company to have a strategy, to be understandable, and to be consistent in that strategy and transparent. So MicroStrategy's strategy is acquire and hold Bitcoin. By any means accretive. By accretive, it means, when you get done with the transaction, you want your public company shareholders to feel like they have more Bitcoin per share, or they have accreted their Bitcoin holdings and not diluted their Bitcoin holdings.
It's been established by many financial and macro experts that the world's current debt-based fiat system is unsustainable. All paper currencies will continuously be devalued until they are worth absolutely nothing. The process might take longer for the US dollar, which is currently the world's reserve currency, and other stronger currencies, but eventually everything is going to be reduced to nothing. During his interview, Saylor explains that Bitcoin is one of the only assets that manages to outperform the rate of devaluation of strong currencies like the dollar, which loses an average of 7% of its purchasing power yearly. This is why it is important to invest instead of save in the long term. However, even top assets like the S&P 500 only gain 7% per year, meaning investing in the popular stock index will only let you maintain your wealth, not grow it. Other assets like bonds, gold, silver, and less popular stock indexes and currencies perform even worse. But Bitcoin stands out because it was specifically created and designed to tackle this global problem of currency devaluation. Let's get back to the interview.
And with regard to myself, I'm long Bitcoin, man. Like everybody else, I'm wishing I had bought more Bitcoin when it was 9,500 a Bitcoin, right? It's, ultimately, it's the best thing you can do. Let's talk about performance though. For example, since MicroStrategy bought Bitcoin, we entered the market August 10th, 2020. And so what's happened to all these asset classes when you think about diversification? Well, between August 10th and October 31st, when we published our results on our quarterly result with MicroStrategy, then Bitcoin was up 192%. And that works out to a compounded annual growth rate of more than 40%. And the S&P is up 25%. Mm-hmm. And the NASDAQ's up 17%. Gold lost 1%. Silver lost 18%. Bonds lost 24%. So in terms of asset classes, Bitcoin is outrunning all of the other conventional asset classes. And if you invested in anything other than maybe Magnificent Seven, you're just not keeping up with inflation. But the Magnificent Seven stocks, if you look at them, while Bitcoin was up 192%, Google was up 68%. Microsoft was up 62%. Apple was up 51%. Meta Group was up 15%. Netflix lost 15%. Amazon lost 15%. So big tech doesn't look like such a good diversification versus Bitcoin. And, so how'd MicroStrategy do? Well, MicroStrategy was up 242%. So we actually outperformed Bitcoin. Why? Because we're levered long Bitcoin, right? We used intelligent leverage. We borrowed money to buy more Bitcoin. We didn't just put our assets into Bitcoin. We found a way to borrow $1 billion at 0% interest and buy Bitcoin, right? So if you can do that, I highly recommend you do that. The caveat being, you can't borrow the money at 0% interest if it's a margin loan, because you might get wiped out on Saturday night while you're sleeping. It can't be a mark to market. It needs to be like a 7-year 9-year, 5-year term loan that isn't marked to market for that to be intelligent leverage. You want to diversify, I would say anybody that said, I like Bitcoin, but I got to be diversified, I'd say, okay, fine. Buy a portfolio of scarce desirable assets that you want to hold for the next 30 years. And it has to pass, the Bernard Arnault test. It has to be something that a person richer than you and more sophisticated than you and more cultured than you and smarter than you will want to buy from you in a decade. And if you come up with that thing, maybe it's a Leonardo da Vinci painting, or maybe it's professional sports team, the Patriots. Maybe it's the middle of London. But I would say this is you could buy the best companies in the world and the best real estate in the world. It's still going to underperform Bitcoin for a lot of reasons we could talk about. So, if you made a lot of money, Bitcoin 10Xs or 100Xs, and you made a lot of money and you want to be diversified, then you buy scarce desirable properties, but you'll underperform. If you, if you're a Bitcoin maximalist, you just realize the cost of capital is Bitcoin's going up 40% a year. The cost of capital is 40%. That means anything that you invest in has to yield that, which is kind of the risk-free cost of capital for a Bitcoin maximalist, plus the risk premium.
According to Michael Saylor, for any asset to outperform Bitcoin, it has to consistently make an annual return of at least 50 to 60% for the next 10 years. That's in addition to being a leading digital asset. In fact, it is at the very foundation of a rapidly growing digital world, which many predict will one day overtake the traditional financial system in its entirety. This is the same realization Saylor made in 2020 when he needed a place to park MicroStrategy's cash holdings without fear of constant devaluation. He found the perfect solution in Bitcoin and has never looked back since. According to the renowned business executive, the only regret he has about Bitcoin is not buying more when the leading cryptocurrency was still under $10,000 per coin. What are your thoughts on Saylor's interview and his outlook on Bitcoin? Please drop your comments as well as your own predictions for Bitcoin in 2024 and beyond in the comments section below. Also, sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications bell for more videos. Thanks for watching.